Now that we have the correct blueprints in place, I'm going to show you how to poly model a car. I usually start from the hood and then build my wireframing going to the back of the car. Okay, let's start. I'm going to zoom to the top viewport on the hood and create a plane object. It doesn't matter about the size and position of it. And then once we're done with that, we're going to need to edit it, so we have to convert it to an editable poly. Now I'll correct the shape of the hood by moving the vertex. To make it easier, we can press Alt-X and make our plane transparent. As you can see, I position the vertex to the hood line, and next I will add more polygons to make the shape more detailed. Now I'm going to show you a great tool to divide polygons. We have to select the edges and choose Connect from the menu. Where's the Connect tool? Let's go back and try this again. There it is. As you can see, our polygon is divided into two. By changing the value of the segments, we can increase the number of them, and the best part about this is that these segments are always equal. But for now, we'll leave it at 1. Now, once we have it connected, I'm going to improve the shape of the hood again by making the lines more smooth. So I'm going to adjust these vertices so that we have a little bit more smooth contour across the hood line. Once you've completed that, we're now going to learn a new way to cut our object. What we need to do is we're going to select the polygon and choose Quick Slice. Next, we have to choose a place where the cut will start, and then we can simply slice our polygon. As you can see, we can control the angle of the slice we want, either left or right. But what we're going to do now is just keep it a little bit more to the top right. And once we have that in place, we're going to try to use the Quick Slice feature with edges. As you can see in this mode, no matter which edges we have selected, we will cut through all the polygons. After trying this, let's go ahead and go back to polygon mode. Once we select Quick Slice, we'll try it again, and as you can see, we have a little bit more control, and it only cuts through one polygon instead of all of them. Okay, let's head back into vertex mode and work with the vertexes a little bit more to correct the shape. It's very important to improve our object line after we make changes so that we can keep a smooth and nice shape of the object we're modeling. Now we need to go to the side viewport, and we need to move our hood to the right spot. So we'll switch to viewports, and we'll move our polygon up just a little bit so that it's level with the hood. And we'll move the back side up so that it's formed with the shape of the hood. After that, we will head over to the front viewport and correct the shape of it. Usually you'll have problems with blueprints, but we just use them so that we keep the general shape and proportions of what we're modeling to scale. So sometimes you just need to improvise a little bit and do what you think looks best. Alright, I think that's enough. Now, let's check one edge and select this little box next to the chamfer option. As you can see, this operation divides our edges into two. It's very important to learn the chamfer tool correctly, because this will be our main tool to control the Mesh Smooth modifier. As you can see, now I can control it by moving the mouse. Now I have to gain the correct shape of the hood. Again, I will be working on the vertex. I want to make sure that some kind of break is on the hood. Okay, looks good now. Well, maybe not. I think I should move this vertex at the bottom a little bit. I'll move it back to gain more of a sharp line. Alright, now it's perfect. Okay, next, using this side blueprint, we will model the correct shape of the hood. But first, we need to go ahead and add some new segments. So let's go ahead and click Connect. Okay, we divided our edges into two, and what is important, we created a new line and a vertex exactly over the middle of the wheel. Thanks to this, we will have less problems with gaining a smoother and more correct arc. Now I'll add a few new segments. As you can see, I want to position the line of the hood a little below the line of the blueprint. I do this because, as I remember, I saw in the pictures that this car should have a little hump in the center of the hood, and blueprints give us only the main outlines of the car, so we have to improvise a little bit with the shape of the objects. Because the hump appears smoothly from the hood, I position the vertex from the front exactly on the line of outlines. And again, you just want to use your best judgment when moving your vertices. Just keep them along the outlines that the blueprints provide for you so that you can get a nice smooth shape and so that everything looks in proportion. Not sure if I like the shape of this a little bit, so I think I'm going to move this vertex up just a little bit so there we go. I think that looks just a little bit better. Oops. As you can see, sometimes we can have a little bit of a problem moving the vertex because of this little axis, but we can simply press X on the keyboard and it will disappear. Now, as you can see, there are only two red arrows that help us with the orientation. And I'm going to adjust these vertexes just a little bit more. But usually I prefer to use this axis because it lets me move the object exactly in one direction, which is a big help. Now we should make the equal segments on both sides of the selected vertex. We have to do this because in this kind of modeling, which I call technical modeling, we should create a wire. I should change the value of the segments in the connect tool to 1. And as I was saying, our wire should be as equal as possible. Alright, let's go ahead and switch our view to perspective and check to make sure that everything's okay. I think everything is cool so far, but I think I'll explain to you a little about the viewports and rotating in Max. There are 3 types of rotating, in which we can switch between them by clicking on this little icon in the right bottom corner of the screen. The first option is global, so all the objects in the scene are the pivot for the rotation. In the second type, the pivot is our selected object. And the third is my favorite. We can rotate the viewport only around the selected vertex or polygons, so usually that's the most useful when it comes down to poly modeling, which most people probably use more than any other rotation tool when modeling. Now I'm going to go ahead and improve the brake on this hood. We have to chamfer the edges again, but thanks to this operation, we will gain a nice and sharp brake on the hood surface. When we apply the chamfer on the edge, we change the geometry of the object, which can be hard to rebuild in the future, so it's very important to reflect which edges should be chamfered. In our case, it's going to be the edges on the line of this brake right here. We can fast select them using the loop tool. Now we choose chamfer and apply it to the selected edges. Remember, lower chamfer gives us bigger angularity. Now I'm going to show you how to smooth the wire of our object. We will use NURMS subdivision to do this. In the display, I will increase the value of the iteration to 2, and as you can see, this made our object a little bit more smooth. It's quite good now, but I think I should improve the line of the brake. Now that I'm going to go ahead and improve the brake, I need to select individual vertices. To do this, you can go ahead and hold the control key while clicking on which vertices that you want to select. Once you go ahead and have your vertexes selected, we're going to move them up a little bit, and we're going to uncheck the last one and move the other ones up just a little bit more so that we keep a nice smooth surface on the hood of the car. Oops, I think I moved the wrong vertex, so I'm going to go back and select these and adjust them as they need to be adjusted. And once I have that adjusted, I'm going to go ahead and move this vertex a little bit more back. And now that I've got that done, let's go ahead and check and see how it looks. Ah, perfect. I like it a lot. Looks good. Now it's time to go ahead and create the hump in the center of the hood. First thing I need to do is add new segments, and of course, I'll use the connection tool. Alright, next I want to move the new vertex closer to the center of the hood, but I don't want to change the geometry of the object, so I will use constraints parameter, which you can find here in edit geometry. We have to change it from none to edge. Now let's go ahead and change the view to user to see the results better. And now as you can see, the vertex are moved only along the edges, which gives you a little bit greater control, and you don't have to worry too much about the geometry of the object. So I need to move this vertex closer to the center, just like this. Now we have what we need to go ahead and create the hump of the hood. We'll do this by moving those vertexes up. So let's go ahead and do this. We will select our edges and go ahead and move them up on the Y vertex. Oops, I need to go back and change the constraints from edge to none. Now that we've done this, I can move the vertex up. Maybe just a little bit more. Now we need to mark the last vertex off, just like I did with the brake of the hood, because I want to have a smooth line. So I'll go ahead and make these small little adjustments to our vertexes so that we create a smooth line. Alright, let's go ahead and check this, and that is looking pretty good. Alright, time for the end. I will finish this hump later, but now I want to make some dents on the hood. First, I need to add new segments because my wire is too low now. I think I better add them using the connect tool, so I should select the edges. Now, connect them, and that's all. This tool is really good because it's fast and easy to use. Now I'll move the vertexes closer to the center of the hood, so I change the constraints to edge and move them. Alrighty. I will need to select all the new vertexes and move them a little to the right. The constraints is set to edge, so I can move the vertex. But I need to change it to none before I forget. Now, I need to go ahead and select the polygons, which I'll do my dent from. This is a great opportunity to show you the bevel and extrude tools. To choose extrude, we have to click the right mouse button and select the small box next to extrude. In the table we can control the extrude height by changing the extrude parameter. We have got 3 types of extrusion. This time there is no difference between group and local because our polygons are in the same axis, and you can try them out just to see how they work. But when I select the extrusion by polygon, there is a big difference. As you can see, this time every polygon is extruded singularly. Alright, let's go ahead and close this table out. And of course, we can control the extrusion by mouse, which in my opinion is a lot easier and faster. Now let's go ahead and choose Bevel Tool. It's similar to the extrude, but with one very important difference. We've got the outline parameter here. It allows us to control the effect better. To make the dent, I'll use the extrude tool. I extrude the polygons a little bit down. Now I'll use the Weld Target tool to connect the vertex. It's very simple to use. We just have to click on one vertex and then select the next one. Thanks to this, our vertex is automatically moved to the next one. Now, I'll move those vertexes a little up to gain a more smooth surface so that our dent looks correct. I'm going to move these next vertexes up a little bit more, and I think that's going to do it just about right. Let's go ahead and check it to make sure it looks good. Alright, let's go ahead and see how it looks with more NURBS subdivisions on. Well, the line looks clear and nice. Yep, I think that's going to be pretty good, so I'll leave it like it is. Well, the hood is almost finished, so now I will start to build the new parts of the car body. Because I will create them from the hood, I'm perfectly sure that the line of the body will be correct and smooth. So I need to copy the selected edges. I do this by holding the Shift key and moving them. Once I've copied them, I need to go ahead and move the new vertexes along the blueprint line. It's very important when you're doing technical modeling to be precise and equal so that our model looks correct. I need to go ahead and move a little bit more of these vertices around and to achieve the desired result. I'm going to adjust this last polygon right here, and I think that's going to look okay. Oh, need to adjust that a little bit more too. Now the next thing that I'm going to need to do is go ahead and copy these back edges. Now, once I've copied those, I'll move this vertex a little bit, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut these edges on the right. So I have to select them first, and of course use the Connect tool. Once I have them selected, I'll go ahead and right click and use the Connect tool. And now that I've got those, I can position the new vertexes exactly to the blueprints. Well, as you can see, there's quite a big difference between the blueprints, so I'm going to go ahead and try to fix it, but we'll end up probably having just to improvise. First, I'll need to equalize those vertexes, and next, I need to move them a little bit down, and I want to gain a nice and smooth arc. And maybe I'll move those vertexes at the end a little bit. Alright, I think I'll go ahead and leave it for right now. And as you can see, the front blueprint is quite different than the top. Because of this, we'll have to improvise on further elements, including the headlights. But we'll go ahead and worry about that later on. Once we're done with that, I can go ahead and now divide the hood off from the body. To do this, I'm going to go ahead and use the Detach tool. So first, I need to go ahead and select all the polygons that will be included to the hood. And when I'll do this, I have to find the Detach tool. It should be somewhere here on your menu on the right hand side. And I'm going to go through these, and I think it's going to be under the Edit Geometry section. There it is. So let's go ahead and click that. Of course we choose, and now, as you can see, all the selected polygons were detached from the object. Once we have them detached, I think I'll go ahead and change the color of the hood. Maybe I'll choose green, but just a little bit brighter. Alright, now I'll have to make the holes between the hood and the car body. To do this, I need to select all the vertexes on the holes line and move them a little bit. Oops, forgot about this one vertex. Alright, now we can go ahead and move the vertex again. I think that's going to be right about enough. And now I need to do this again with the back of the hood. Alright, I think that's going to be just right. Now what? Oh yes, car brass always has got a few millimeters of thickness, so we should just go ahead and simulate that. The way we're going to simulate this is by copying the side edges of our hood, and we're just going to copy them down a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get into edge mode, and we're going to select our edges around the side. I'll also go ahead and select the rear and front edges and hit the loop button, which will select all along the path. but we'll go ahead and uncheck the front of the hood. Those edges, we're going to adjust those on a different axis. Once we have the edges selected, I'm going to go ahead and shift and move the edges down, which will simulate our thickness in the metal. And we'll go ahead and select the front edges. Now with the front of the edges selected, we're going to switch views to the side, and you'll copy them down a little bit to simulate the thickness in the metal. And after we've copied all the edges, what we need to do next is go ahead and weld the points. We'll go ahead and use our weld tool again to weld our points. Now let's go ahead and see how our hood looks with NURM subdivision. Well, as you can see, we've got a little bit of a problem here. The edges are too smooth. So we have to make more sharp edges and make this corner more angular. But that's very simple. We just have to use the chamfer tool on the edges. So I have to select them, and as I said in the past, it's important to select all the edges that we want to chamfer and then make this operation one movement. Okay, now I'll add a little chamfer on those vertexes. I think that's enough. Let's see how it looks with the NURM subdivision on again. We're going to go back here, and I think that's going to look great. Just see how smooth it is. I like it a lot. Okay, now it's time to finish our hood. We created one half of it, and now we need to mirror it. So we will have the entire hood. So first of all, we have to correctly position the pivot of our object. We can do this in the hierarchy section. We have to choose the effect pivot only, so we'll be able to position only the pivot. And now I have to move this pivot to the center of the hood. It is very important to position it correctly, because we will use it for mirroring our half. And once we've got that right in the center of the hood, I can go ahead and turn the effect pivot off. Now we will use the symmetry modifier. It is a very helpful tool which will automatically mirror our object. Where is it? Right down here on our modifier list. And once you select it, you will now see that we have two halves of the hood, but there's an ugly hole in the center, which of course we really don't want to have. But we can fix this by changing the threshold value. This parameter responds for welding vertexes. Unfortunately, there are some bugs, so we have to improve the geometry of the object. It'll be easy. We just have to move one vertex closer to the center of the hood. So let's go to the vertex selection and select all vertexes in the center. I have to position them just like I positioned the pivot. Alright, I think that's going to be right about enough. So let's go back to the symmetry, and excellent, that's perfect. As you can see, we fixed this ugly hole, and now all the vertexes are welded correctly. Now, when the symmetry is correct, we have to convert our object to editable poly once again. Now we can simply add NURM subdivision and see how it looks. Well, looks great for me. Let's just see how smooth the surface we created is. I like this shape, but I don't know much about cars, but I think this hood's got style. Okay, the last thing we should do is very important. I'm talking about position of the pivot exactly to the center of the hood. Now we have to copy all the values of the hood's pivot to the body's pivot. Thanks to this, we will not have any problems in the future with mirroring other elements of the car body. We can do this by simply copying the values from the transform table. So I select x-axis value and copy it to the body's table. It's enough. We don't have to copy the rest of the parameters because we will mirror our objects only in the x-axis. Well, maybe I will mirror this body element to check if everything's okay. I'll use the mirrored tool for this. As you can see, everything seems to be okay, but of course there is this ugly hole. But there will be no problem to fix that in the future. I think that's going to conclude this chapter. We've created the entire hood, we've learned how to use the polygonal modeling, and how to build our wire, and how to create a smooth surface.